the East Coast, good afternoon, and welcome to the National Code Enforcement Network. Today we have a special guest. We have Shirley Ellis from the International Code Council Board of Directors, coming straight out of Bastrop, Texas. She is the building official. And first of all, happy International Women's Month.
Thank you.
Shirley, it's great to have you on the show. We have Cecilia. She's doing the Women in Construction, Engineering, and Design forum right now. So she's going to be joining us a little bit later to hop in on this conversation. And I think, Shirley, you're going to be going over there right after, correct? So
Correct.
this is a busy, busy month for powerful women in our industry. And with that, welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm just so excited to be here. This is one of my favorite groups. You with working with y'all, and so just to give you a little background on how I got where I am, and the long journey because I started in this industry in the Panhandle of Texas in 1981. I was helping to build a hospital. I was the field office manager. And so the city, when we finished, the city inspector came and said, I want to hire you to be my permit clerk. We didn't have technicians then, they were clerks. And I would like to hire you to be my clerk. I need an inspector, but they won't let me hire an inspector. So in 6 months, I will change your job title. So I went to work for the city of Pampa, Texas, a little city of about 20,000. And in 6 months, I was the assistant building official.
Wow.
And yes, and that was my hometown. Loved it. It was wonderful. I had the most wonderful mentor and taught me everything that he knew so that he could stay in the office and then he could send me out. The first woman in Texas to do that. So, and it being in the Panhandle was a little bit of a challenge, but we made it. And after 3 years, it was it's very cold up there, and I'm not a cold weather person. And he said, I can't give you any more training. They're not going to let me. So I suggest that you start looking for your next level. So I came to Central Texas to a little town as a building official named Belton. It's a town of about 12,000. And within 6 months there, the city of Austin started courting me because they needed EEOC. They needed a woman. And I had then 4 years of experience and they couldn't find anybody with any experience. So I said, I'll come, but I'm not a person for a big city. So I want downtown so I don't have to learn all these streets and get lost. And so now year 4, I'm the commercial high-rise building inspector for the state capitol in Texas. And yeah. So what do you do with a woman? You send that the guys don't want. There were 100 inspectors. They send me to all the trainings and the meetings that somebody from our department had to go to. And I ended up the lead inspector at 3M Research Plant, like a little bitty 1.9 million square foot on-site power generation facility that was poured in place concrete, half of the buildings and half were red iron. And did that for a year and decided the big city was not enough. So I ended up for my first tour in Bastrop. And so it's just like progressed since then. You know, I left for a while, got frustrated with the city manager I had. I left, followed seismic truck for a while, did some construction on site, superintendent project stuff, and I just missed it. So the city of Austin called me for the green building program. So I went back to that, and A&M hired me from there to teach. So I spent 17 years training building inspectors for the most part on energy and energy efficiency. Left there for a little while and came back. I did a little short stint with a manufacturer of cellulose and was their national codes rep. So learned how to lobby Congress and state legislatures. And then they called me back, A&M did. So it's like, okay, I'll come back. I had some issues with family. And so moved back and then worked there until I retired last year when the city of Bastrop said, we got to have you back. We're growing too fast. We went from 100 houses every 2 or 3 years to 200 homes. They hired me, and we've now gone to 500 homes every year. And we have a movie studio coming into town. We're going to start building in about 60 days for 16's Down Movie Studio. So they called me back, and so yeah, I just keep going. Uh,
No, it's awesome. It's awesome to see that progression in, especially, and we'll get into how you ended up on the International Code Council Board of Directors, because that's a big achievement within itself. It's not a lot of women that have served in that capacity,
you
and
know,
one of the things that I always go back. Let's go back to the beginning. I love all the stuff that you told me, but I'm gonna dissect it and say, okay, give me more of
where do you
this.
want to go?
I want to know about lobbying, and that's an art within itself. It's a whole different other beast. Going from one jurisdiction and then coming back to a different administration, that's a whole other beast. Going
Mm-hmm.
from a city to a private sector and becoming an educator, that's a whole nother beast. So,
Uh,
we're going to talk about all this. This is awesome. So
just
before we get started, like, so how, when you said, back then they used to be permit clerks, now they're permit technicians, because there's both male and female that serve in those capacities. And one of the
right.
things that we always discuss is the role of permit technician. That's one of the front lines. It's one of the most valuable jobs that a lot of folks don't realize, and it's primarily women that serve in those capacities. And it,
Well, here's my take on that is the permit, whether it be the clerk, the technician, that person sitting at that front desk is the heartbeat of the organization. They will keep everything going smooth. If it's not functioning, no department is going to function. And if your department is considered efficient and friendly, it's because your permit technicians are efficient and they're friendly. And some people think it's uh, not important. It's the most important job, I think, in the whole department. And 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 it can be a stepping stone, like it was for me. But then it also can be, if that's where your passion. I tell when I talk. Just was at the Washington State not long ago, permit tech, and when I talk to ours here in Texas or wherever, find your passion in this industry. And whether if that's being my permit tech, she is great at the front counter. She said, I never want to learn what you do. So you find where your passion is. And if it's being a permit tech and that's what you enjoy and that's where your passion is helping people get started and work through the process, please continue, because we need people up there who feel that passion. But if your passion is to go further, then find a mentor and help go further. Some people, plan review is where their heart lies, and others think if you have to open a set of plans, it's horrible. There's a position everywhere for anybody in this industry. Find what it is. My granddad always told me, find what you do well, and then find someone to pay you to do it. And if you do that, you'll love your job and you'll never feel like you're working, and you'll enjoy going every day. So whatever it is, and it may be that you love your job, but you just don't like the details of a and pressure of a larger city, or and you like that small town where you know everybody coming in. It's not just the position you're in the department; it's finding the right department for you.
That's so
Mm.
true. I agree with exactly what you said. And, we have one of our person here, we have says great advice. And that is 100% correct, because, I met a lot of chief building officials over my lifetime. So, and, a lot of them started off as permit technicians, and
Right.
knowing that role, knowing how to deal with the public, because, you try to come in with a warm, smiley face, but it doesn't always work that way. Somebody's mad because they didn't get a permit or have to pay a fee, and they take it out at the person, like in restaurants, they don't take it out on the cook, they take it out on the server.
That's right.
Same thing with permit technicians. They're taking it out on you when it's actually something that you couldn't issue a permit because it's not a code friendly, or they didn't pass their plan check, or So I totally understand that role, and and seeing all these folks dealing with the public. It's a tough job. I'm Mr. Code Enforcement. I love code enforcement. Anybody in the code enforcement role knows that we're the deliverer of those horrible messages. Like, we knock on the door and we say, hey,
Hmm.
we don't say, hey, you have a great house. We're just giving you a check. We're like, hey, there's something going on here and we need to
Yeah.
solve it and stuff like that. Well, with permit technicians, it's the same, or clerks, it's the same thing. I agree. It's one of those jobs where if you I've met people that just fit that role. They
It
do it
is perfect
well.
for 'em.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
perfect for them. And you know what? You can be the best permit technician and mentor other new permit technicians. But like you said,
And and mine as that when there's somebody at the front counter and I can hear them, or when I walk by and I hear her on the phone, I am not above taking that phone away from her and saying, she doesn't get paid to get yelled at. I do. So you want to yell at somebody, you yell at me. Do not yell at her. It's not her fault. She has no control over what I tell her or what the code says or how it's interpreted. So you don't be yelling at the front counter. That's what they pay me for. And it usually like she said, they were nicer to you. Yeah, they have to be.
yeah,
And
you have
and
the
so it's taken a couple, there's one or two of them, it's taken more than one discussion before they quit yelling at her. But it's real important that you have a team that works together and that everybody not only knows their job, but especially when you get to be the building official, I need to understand what they go through, what the permit. If I don't understand what you go through, then I can't help you when you're under stress. If I know the job, I can do it when you're not here. You have to understand the jobs of the people under you. You don't have to be able to do them well, but it helps if you've at least tried it, um, you know, or at least sit with them for a little while to see what it's like. It just makes the whole department a better team, I
So
think.
and normally when we do these types of interviews, I always say, hey, let's go a little bit back a little more. What actually
Okay.
got you interested in the whole building and construction, getting into that permit technician? Because we're going to get to your role as ICC board of director, which is
Next.
you
Okay.
know.
So, all right. So I will tell you a real funny story. I was raised as a pipeliner's daughter. And so I went to work. My first job out of college was at a trucking company that sold Kenworth trucks. And I ended up dating a bull hauler, as they call him. He hauled cattle. And so on the weekends, we hauled cattle, of course. That's when most of our dates were. Um, so when I went to work for the construction company, my mom was still like, eh. So when I went to work for the city, I came and said, I'm not moving with the construction company. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to go to work for the city. I'm going to be a building inspector. Eventually, I'm going to start out for 6 months as this. And my mom goes, oh, good. Something I'm not embarrassed to tell my friends that my daughter does. And my dad goes, wait, time out, mother. Let me explain to you what a building inspector does, or what an inspector is. I mean, he had dealt with them on the pipeline. He had started a construction company at this point, and he said it's not just this glorious position that you think it is, and totally respected. And he said, and on the second side of that, there are no women that really do what your daughter's fixing to do. And my mother looks at me and smiles, and she said, I'll just tell my friends you work at the city. Will that be okay? Sure, mom. And it took her about 3 years. And then when they had sold their house and moved down where I was in Austin area. And when she got down there and she started seeing what was going on and a little bit more, she came around to really be proud and appreciative of what I did. But she still would get frustrated because my dad and I talk business all the time. I had a septic license. My dad was my apprentice when we had our company, and
Wow.
he installed them. And I had the license, and which made for interesting dinner conversations, you can imagine. But so when I started, as I've said, I just somebody would say, "Can you do this?" Sure, I can do that. And of course, then a lot of times I'd get in it, and then I'd be going, "Wow, what made me think I could do this?" Which meant I had to go hit the books and study a little bit more to be able to do it. So when some people were talking, and Ravi had been from Texas and on the board and been off the board for several years. And so some people, we were kind of talking, not Texas people, but some of the ladies in Wicked, and about if I was going to run and win. So I went and talked to my guys and said, nobody, you're not running, you're not running. Okay. People I thought should be in ahead of me. I said, I'm going to run. And I threw my hat in the ring. I lost the first time in Fort Lauderdale by a minor single digit percentage
Wow.
to the state of New York. to Jim Morgeson. And uh, so when they came up and said, "Are you going to run again?" I said, "I'm not running in Long Beach." Why not? Because Bill Bryant and Greg Wheeler are up, and that would be to me like political suicide. As we know, they've all both gone on to be past presidents. So I said, I'm going to wait. When we get to Kansas City, 2 years, I'll run. And even if I hadn't won, I would still affected change because part of the issue with my election was that uh, Jim ran from the floor and then had trouble getting support from his jurisdiction to serve, which is one of the criteria. So they changed the rules, and now you have to have at least sent in your documentation to that you would like to serve as a board member and that your community supports you before you can run from the floor, which means you have to have that to them before the meeting starts. So you have to have at least thought about it. So that's an effective, good change, I think, that was made. In Texas, they refer to that as the Shirley Amendment. And lovingly. They could have probably called it a few other things. But so when I went in 2016, then I won. And so I won Bill Bryant's 2-year term, an expired term. I went up to him afterward and I said, "Does this mean I'm the next Bill Bryant?" And he goes, "We got to do something about all that hair." And I said,
Did you have
"And I
poofy
need
hair?
some, yeah, because he's bald." And I said, "And then I need some Pee Wee Herman shoes because he's like 6 something and I'm like 5'1". They say though I have an attitude that I'm 6'1", 5'1" with the attitude of 6'2" is what my
That's
friends say.
funny.
Yeah, and so I had that 2-year term, and then I was up for election again. And some of y'all will remember this. It was an interesting time. I got out of nominating with a 2-year term, but they had done some math wrong on some unexpired terms. And so they came to me like an hour, 30 minutes or an hour before the board meetings actually started and said, "Well, we're wrong. You actually are running for a 1-year term." So I gave math that went from 2-year to 1 year. Boso came out against me because he didn't feel he deserved anything more than 1 year, and he didn't come out of nominating committee. So we have the same constituents. So he beat me by a few points. So now I'm down to a 0-year term. Then came out against Mike Savage, won a 3-year term. So, 2 + 1 + 0 in Aggie land is 3. So I have a 3-year term. COVID extended it to 4. So now I'm up for my final 3-year term this year. But I'm going to throw another, nothing's gone smooth and by the book. Why would I let it do it this time? So as Pete already knows, most of y'all, I'm fixing to make my announcement to y'all, but I'm running for the executive committee for this office of secretary treasurer. Now, if I get nominated and I win, it's good. If I do not win, I have to rerun for my seat because nominating committee can't leave it open. So I'll either have a 4-year term as secretary in the executive committee, a 3-year term, or once again, I could have a 0. We'll see what happens in Louisville. It's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's my first ABM was in Pittsburgh. I mean, I always wanted to go to ABM. I've gone to Educodes and I got into this Region 3 training, and but the first time I ever saw the whole nomination thing, it was crazy. I'm like, this person nominated from the floor, and then that person, this person's
Mhm.
like giving his speech, and you could tell that person's not too happy. So,
Yes.
and you start kind of learning the politics, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of service in serving on these board of directors because there's great stuff that comes out of it. There's a lot of committees that come out of it, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But going back to when you were permit clerk, did you ever aspire at that time to be a building official? Did you ever aspire to be on the board of directors? Was
No.
that something that
So
just happened?
no, no. So I mean, I was just looking forward to being an inspector, and so no, none of that. And I started serving immediately in my local chapter, but I didn't get to do board service until I became a building official. So that was 83, not board service, but state. So in 83, I got very active on the state level, helped create the Blue Bonnet chapter, which is one of the larger chapters in Texas, and a lot of people, they're very active on the national level. And then I went to Austin. They didn't have a chapter, so I started the Greater Austin chapter, which we're trying to revive. And in the meantime, some of these names, some of the you will recognize. You'll recognize maybe not the name of George Walker. He was on the ICC board when we first formed. He was also a past president of the Southern Building Code Congress, and he was one of my mentors. He was from Waco, helped me start the Bluebonnet chapter. And then another name you all recognize, but probably not as intimately as I do, and his name was Bobby Fowler. He was the building official in Abilene at this time. So, and was another one of my mentors. I was actually at a hospitality suite. Well, it's a picnic is outside. Stand between George Walker and Bobby Fowler when Bobby said, "George, it's time." And George said, "What?" This was 93, 94. And he said, "It's time to pull the plug. We have 2 out of the 3 votes to start the merger of these 3 organizations." And so I learned so much. And they're the ones who showed me about giving back and service. If you're going to participate, don't be a sidelander, participate. And so I've always followed that rule. And when I got to 1990, I was president of the Austin chapter. So they sent me to the ABM for Southern Building Code. And it was in New Orleans, Louisiana. And here I was, I weighed 100 pounds, 5'2". I was in my 30s. And I thought I was getting my expenses paid. I sat there through all the hearings because that's what I was there for. And I was at the time a high-rise inspector and got up and testified the first time at the mic. This was when you could touch them. And I brought the mic down and said, I'm Shirley Munns then. That's before I got married. And I'm the high-rise building inspector for City Austin. And I have a few questions about this code change. I said, hearing the proponent's prior testimony, I'm sure there's an ASTM number attached to this, is trying to allow concrete in high-rise buildings where we had sheared the penetrations. I said, I'm sure, how do I treat that shear so it'll now bond correctly, blah, blah, all this stuff. And I said, so I'm sure all that's in an ISTM number, since that's what he's been testifying to a lot to. So if he could just give me that number, then I could probably support this. And I sat down and he got up and withdrew because he didn't have an ASTM number. And he got up and withdrew the proposal from the floor. And I'm like, they're in a drug that can give you this kind of high. I'm sitting in a room of 1,000 experts. And the first time I get up to the microphone, I won big. I'm like, wow, I'm done. I'm hooked. So I've been doing code changes ever since. And all the hearings, I was, when we had 3 codes, I was at least 2 or 3 of them. Texas is the only state that had all 3 codes adopted at the same time. We had bigger cities were with ICBO, smaller cities were SBCCI, and one city, Pasadena, was BOCA. So I was pretty big on ICBO and SBCCI, serving on committees. I was on the plumbing committee. I mean, she's Bill Tangy, another one of my mentors. And he goes, boys, it's just one girl. I mean, really, it's all of y'all. What can she do? At least when you were appointed to committees and not through the process that we have now, was just basically the CEO. And he came out and he said, okay, they've agreed to let you on there. Now just go kick their ass. And so, so I did. But and so all of mine has been a lot of my help has been through very, very good mentors. Pick your mentors. If you see someone you respect and they have something that you think you need, or some skill or some information, say, will you help me? Will you mentor me? Will you give me some advice? And we will. But some of them will do it just voluntary. And if they ask you and say, you can go do this, trust that they see something in you. If someone says, I think you should do this, and it's someone that you know or know of and respect, trust their judgment. They see something, and go with it. And it's going to take you down amazing places and to do amazing things. So I thoroughly believe that mentorship is Very, very critical. And I've mentored a lot of people. I tell women all the time, don't do what you see me do because I've got enough experience I can get by with it. You got to start where I did, and people got to know. You got to get them to understand you, know you, talk to the right people, listen a lot. One of my mentors came up not long ago and said, I didn't think you was listening all those years ago, but you listened more than I thought you did.
That's
Uh,
awesome. You know,
so,
one of
yeah.
the reasons we have all these guests on this National Code Enforcement Network is because you know what, folks like you know what, I talk to you. We've never had a drink together, but guess what? You know, you're here today, and
Yes.
you're talking to the next generation of code enforcement or building officials and board members, and your journey is something that a lot of folks can say, well, if she can do it, 5 foot 5 foot 2, 100 pounds, I can
Anyway,
do it.
I
you
will
know,
tell. All right. So, Pete, I'm going to tell an embarrassing story on me.
all right.
Um, when we were in Pittsburgh and we were leaving the banquet, it was raining, and Pete's offering to walk me back to my hotel, which was what, 4 blocks or so
Yes.
in the rain and on the nice, even, smooth sidewalks of Pittsburgh. And in my heels and my floor length dress, I hit the pavement. Remember?
Yeah, I
In his
do.
jacket. I was afraid I'd torn his jacket, but I had not. So his first time meeting this board member, she falls almost flat on her face. So we're all human.
Yeah.
We're all human.
It's true. I actually I think I met you right before that.
Mhm.
I think it was like a minute, but I actually
Yeah. We
got
said
to
hello. We
yes.
said hello, but it's the first time we'd actually like met, visited,
Yeah.
talked. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was after the I think it was after the banquet, and we're walking
Mhm.
back and it was
Yes.
raining, and I
Yes.
remember I stole the umbrella from the hotel. Well, I didn't, I
Yes.
borrowed it. I gave it
You
back. But
borrowed it. And I had on the dress that's in this picture. Yes.
yes. Yes, and we were walking, and yeah, you did pretty, you did pretty. And,
I
it is what it is. We're like you say, we're all human. We ended up going back.
didn't
I'm
hurt
glad you were
anything.
okay. But you know what?
And
We did have a good conversation after
oh,
that.
we
We
did.
laughed about it, so
About
it
sidewalks. We had a good conversation about sidewalks. Um, don't worry, we didn't steal the umbrella. I had it with me the next day. One of the guys needed to go back and it was raining, so he carried it right back, used it on the process, delivered it back to the hotel. So
that's awesome.
everything's good.
I thought so. No, but another, and it's funny because I always tell the stories on how we meet people, and you know what? Hey, that's how I meet people. Yeah, I
Yeah.
met people where I'm like I've known of them, and then when I got to them, I totally forgot their name, and I'm like, I had at ABM, I spent years on a board. I'm going to tell this story. I'm not going to tell who the person is. It was a funniest story. We're at not ABM. We're at the EduCode last week. Guy I
Mhm.
served on the board for 3 years with. Comes up to me. I'm like, hey everybody, this is so and so, and then he looks at me like, that's not me, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, wait, it's so and so, like super confident, like raising
Yeah.
like the Lion King, like because I'm so positive. He's like, no. So I ended up, so I had like egg on my face, and everybody was clowning me. Especially Cecilia was clowning me the whole time. So I had my first senior moment in front of everybody, and it happens.
Uh,
We're human.
that's why we wear name tags. It's
See, now
exactly
it
why
makes
we
sense.
do.
Wear your name tag.
Wear name tags.
Yeah,
And I'm so glad that a lot of times they'll put the name on both sides because they're usually facing the wrong direction.
they are. They are. No, but end of the day, I see the impact that your position has on other. You have a bunch of fans on the chats. I don't know if you've seen them pop up.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I see, but I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read them. But yeah, I see
yeah.
them.
So you had
And
Lorena, you had Celine
oh,
Sarkislu,
Lorraine is on.
you had
Oh, yeah.
Rachel Patterson, you had let me see, Charlotte McCowan Brinson. That they're all fans, so it's a
Oh,
great
good.
team.
Well, thank
Renee
you very
Salva,
much.
yeah. So it's
When you
it,
see me, come up and say, "Hey, I saw you on your chat." And that way, it'll help me put you in perspective of where I know you from. So,
no, it's crazy. So anybody that knows Shirley, say hi, Shirley. It's always good to have our guests know who's watching and
who's
stuff.
listening? And yeah.
Yeah. So now, going back to, getting what kind of committees do you currently serve on?
Okay, so this year I'm on the budget committee and on the audit committee. And in the past, I've served on the chairman of the awards committee. I was that in 2020, which we didn't do. We gave awards, but it was all on a virtual. And in 21, so you saw me like everywhere there. I was like 17 different awards we give out, 15 or 16, 17, somewhere in there. So I was a little bit of everywhere. I've served on the honorary committee. I've served on the, I was liaison to the sustainability membership committee for, I think, 3 years, maybe four. Uh, Jay Albatar retired, and the global membership committee came up and asked me to serve as their liaison. So I've done that. My minor is in business. My college degree is in business management with my major with a minor in global business. So global membership wanted me there for that reason, I think. I don't know. Maybe it was because Jeff enjoyed drinking beer. And he and a couple of the other people from Australia and New Zealand. But that's been a real joy. I was also the liaison to my state of Texas and Oklahoma since I've been on the board up until this year, and Kansas for 2 years. Um, Back when the bust hit and ICC was a little strapped back 2008, 2009, they decided that the board members should represent their own community, their own state, and the close ones nearby because it would less travel, right? Because a lot of it we could do by car instead of flying across country. Well, Cindy said, we're doing okay now, and we need to get to where the members have access to other board members other than the ones that they have technically grown up with. So now this year I became the liaison to Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. And I have done a lot with the Washington Permit Technician, Association. I've also done Oregon, some meetings with them, installed both of their officers. Idaho, I went and did theirs and installed the permit techs there at the annual business meeting with the officers there. So I'm thoroughly enjoying, although wasn't too relish in snow in November and driving in the mountains, but it's been a challenge and fun. So I've done a little bit on several different committees. I've been on the council policy committee for several terms. This is the first year I haven't served on the CEO evaluation committee. Uh, so there's been some that are fun, important but fun. That's the awards, the scholarships. Some that are real important business that we do, like evaluating our CEO and now working with our budget. Some are a little bit more important, but it's all been fun. And I've learned tremendous amount. We have some brilliant minds on the board of directors from different perspectives. We just did a workshop where we learned our different personalities, and I'm definitely an extrovert, and I'm a intuitive a lot, which I know drives some of our less intuitive, those logical ones that drives them kind of crazy. But so we're learning how to work with amongst ourselves, learning who has the strengths to put us where we can do the best that we need to do. And I applaud our Madam President for that. She's in Dubai right now working on some projects, and yeah.
Yeah,
So
I did see her on posting. I'm like,
mhm.
wow, look at Cindy Davis over there.
She's the first president to go visit. We have an office in Dubai, for those who don't know, and she's the first board member to visit our Dubai office. So that's pretty exciting.
And this is one of the things, it's the International Code Council, Dubai, and one of the things that we're working on, especially with when we talk about diversity and inclusion, including the Spanish speaking communities.
Hmm.
You have
Hmm.
South America, you have those communities where
Right,
you know
right.
it, they need codes.
They do. And so I'll tell you, We are in ICC now, 64,000 plus. We have almost 10,000 jurisdictional government members, which each one has 4 to 12 people. Um, we're in 55 countries. We have members, and we're actually do work in, I think, about 35 countries. We've written building codes. We've helped Mexico a lot. We've written an energy code for the Caribbean for Costco, which is the 15 free trade countries. And we started with the energy. Everyone's like, why energy? Because here we would think, our people would think you should start with building, but they import all of their energy, 100%. So energy to them is pretty critical. So we started with the energy. And then we also have written codes. We're in process of writing some with Bangladesh right now. We've written building codes and helped the Afghanistan. We're working in Saudi Arabia. Their new NEOM community. I don't know how many of you have heard of NEOM. It's being built from the ground up. It's 10,000 square miles of a city being built from the ground up. I actually talked to 2 different headhunters about going to work there. They wanted someone to start their whole engineering firm. This was a couple of years ago. COVID was just hitting. And so I said, but to create at that time, they were going to be 100% desalination for their water source and only wind and solar for power. And so Mark Johnson, our senior vice president, is worked a lot with them on codes and technical issues and engineering. And so been pretty busy over in that area. So we're all over and truly live up to the international. We do a lot of business in China and India with our accreditation service and the evaluation service. Very active over in the Middle East. I mean, in the Far East. So lots going on. Lots of exciting stuff.
Isn't it crazy? Like, some of us only look at our small towns and think ICC, and you're like, do you ever take a look back and say, wow, I represent this bigger portion of it? Man, it's hard because you're a doer, and doers don't take the time to sit there and say, wow, I came from
Okay,
a permit technician to today.
let me tell. I will tell you 2 stories. And from different perspective. One, I was talking to Dominic. I said, well, are you doing this? Do you want me to come over? Because we have that fire facility in Bryan, which is 90 miles from me. I used to drive it every day. I know. And so he said, Shirley, no, because we want to recognize they were doing constructions and we want to recognize them. He said, because you forget you're on the board, you can walk into a room and it sucks all the air out. And I went, do what? It's just me, you know? And he said, no, they see you as not this. So another story, I had gone to the Colorado chapter training, which they just had. And I was going as a student. Here I've been teaching for A&M, and I'd taught all of these people for years. But I was going as a student, and as I walked in, Steve Thomas was there, and he said, Shirley, I'm meeting Doug Thornburg. He said, we're going to go to dinner. We have to talk about some things, but we're going to meet you up at 1127. I said, where? He said, the instructors, hospitality suite. Just go up to the instructor's room, and we'll meet you there in about an hour when we get done with dinner. I said, but I'm not an instructor. He said, Shirley, Doug and I are going to go talk, and we're going to meet you. It's 1127. And I said, Steve, I'm not teaching here. I'm a student. He said, you're on the board. I think they're going to let you in. And I went, oh, yeah. you know, I wasn't even thinking about crashing the party. So I tend to forget that. I think I'm just me. And then every once in a while, it just kind of like hits me, and it's like, oh yeah. I mean, I'm still in awe of our staff at ICC. I think we have the best staff of any company anywhere in the world. And what they accomplish and how they do things, I sit in awe of them. When I'm sitting at a table with Mark Johnson and Daryl from Costco, their CEO, we're sitting in Barbados um, at our after our board meeting, our first and only international board meeting 2 years ago in Barbados, because we had met with Crosco and we'd had a board meeting, then met with them all day, and we're sitting there just talking, and I'm sitting here in awe of these two guys, and then Joe goes, "Well, someday I'm going to come. Come let me have some real Texas barbecue?" And I'm like, "Sure," thinking, "You want to come visit me?" And then later Mark goes, "Well, yeah, because do you not remember we just wrote them that, oh, I just forget, Mark, Peter, sometimes I forget. And I'm just me, you know.
No,
I,
I
I'm
agree. Yeah.
I'm blessed. I have been very blessed to be where I am, and I try to do the best job that I can at whatever God puts me to do. And right now, it's helping here. And
And you know what? One of the things I admire about this board in particular, like, you can sit down, like for example, when you talk about Mark and talking to him in Barbados, I talked to him at Educode, and we talked about how to further expand the code enforcement training and things. This
mhm,
is not code enforcement is not standardized. It's so pish posh, and I'm like, hey, we really need to put this together, and just having that simple conversation with him, having a conversation with you or some of the other board members. It's just like talking to your colleague when you're really thinking these are the decision makers. These are people that are out there. And one of the things that I see with the most of this board of directors is like, even talking to just regular frontline staff, everybody's treated on the equal plane. And this is why I love the whole ICC organization.
yes,
I can go to Educode and talk to the frontline staff, and they treat you like you're part of them. And this is what I like. I need something education. I pick up the phone. I call somebody. I know who to call. If I need to talk to somebody else, that's like, hey, that office in Alabama will take care of you, or that office in Chicago will take care of you, or that office in Brea will take care of
yes,
you. And
yes,
it's so funny because I can call my government liaison like Susan Dowdy and say, hey, Susan, I need this. Oh, this person, talk to Carla Higgs, who's in Alabama. Da da da.
hmm,
And it just, she connects you, and Carla would say, hey, maybe you need to talk to this person. This is the right person for you. This is your region representative.
right,
Talk to them. So, and it's like the way they just interconnect, and everybody knows whose function is whose. I love it. So
yes,
it's
yes.
admirable.
Well, when I started, and I hadn't been at the city of Pampa but a few weeks, and I'm starting to learn plan review, and I don't have a building code. So I picked up the phone, and it says, Southern Building Code Congress. So I call, and this guy answers the phone, said, "This is Bill. Can I help you?" And I said, "How do I find a building code?" And he's like, "What?" And I said, "Well, my city, I just started. I can't find a copy of the building code. What are you under?" I said, "The ordinance says we have the 1979 Southern Building Code Congress." He said, "I have one on my desk. I have two of them on my desk. I'm going to send you one. What's your address?" It was Bill Tangy. He was the CEO. To the day that man died, last time I saw him right before he died, he said, "Do you still have my code book?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do. Do you need it back?" Because he loaned it to me until I could get one. "Do you need it back?" And he said, "Not yet. Just want to know you still have it." And I'll probably have that book till the day I die. Because he was just like, you would talk to him and he'd say, "What do you do?" "I work at I work at SBCCI. I work at ICC." He didn't say, "I'm the CEO at ICC. I work at ICC. I work for ICC." And so whether it be in here, our city our city manager has a quarterly luncheon. We have 100 and less than 150 employees. Quarterly luncheon because he figures everybody's going to be able to make at least one or two of them during the year. And so when I go, all my all the staff from the planning department, they all sit together. No, I'll go sit with somebody from the parks department and mows the grass, or I'll go sit with some of the park. I want to sit with someone I don't see every day that I still work with. uh, and so I'm the same way. When I first started running, I had to go talk to my guys. They didn't know at first. They weren't sure that I would be able to be elected till they saw. I said, "What do you think I do when y'all are out playing golf? Because y'all make all your plans. You're from the same part of Texas. You don't call and say, 'Oh, do you think we should make sure Shirley has something to do on Tuesday night for dinner?'" So I said, I would go with the New York guys. I would go with the guys from Georgia. I'd be over here with the guys from, wherever. oh, start talking with them. You want to go eat with us? Sure. Or at the banquet, I just sit down with them because I want to meet people that I don't see every day. I want to get other opinions and other things. So you'll find that people are just wonderful to meet and talk to, and you're going to learn a little something, and who knows what can come of that. So it's all we're just one big. There's a lot of us, but we are a very small family, and I tell my son that he's 22. If I get secretary, y'all all meet him in 24 because he'll be there with his band. But he's been to a couple of the board meetings as my plus one. He's a musician, professional musician. But I, uh, I take him and I tell people all the time, you've got to my son, you've got to put yourself out there, and you've got to meet new and interesting people. And I said, I know people all over this country, all over the world. I said to him, my nephews, if you ever get in any trouble anywhere, and I don't mean jail, you got yourself in, get yourself out. But if you need something, your car's broke down, you can't find a mechanic, you don't know who to call, you need to find the hospital or doctor, you just go find the building department and say, hey, this is my Aunt Shirley or this is my mom. They're gonna know, and they're gonna help or provide help. I said, because I've had, when I was at A&M, people that I knew, my child's over there, Shirley, can you make sure I can't get there for an hour. Can you get them to so and so? Yes, because we're family and that's what we do. So, yeah, it's amazing. Uh, I'm probably going to be one of these that their associate retire and walk away. I don't know if I can retire and walk away.
No, there's a lot of retirements going on, and there's
Yeah,
and
some of
it's
them just
funny.
don't come back. They're just
They
not.
don't.
Yeah,
Nobody
my brother
leaves.
said, I said, you're going to retire in a few years, right? And move to the beach. Yeah. What are you going to do when you retire? That's why my sister-in-law says. And I said, um, I'm going to like travel and meet all the people I've met around the world where I can actually sit down and we're not at some meeting. I'm going to go and visit with my friends. And he said, I know he's been to a couple of them. He said, I know now what you mean by friends. They're not just, some of them are not just work friends. And he said, I don't know why you want to retire then, because you get ICC to pay for you to do it now. I said, but they're not always going to. Yeah. So,
No, it's one of the great things about being involved when you go to these different venues, whether it be Louisville or be Rochester or be Pittsburgh. You When you get to meet the locals, the people hosting, you get to go to the spots. If we're in Texas, I'm like, hey, I want you to take me to the good barbecue place.
mm,
And
hmm
you're in California, I'll take you to the good Mexican restaurants. So and
Howard Wig from Hawaii, when he was here for a meeting in Austin, wanted to go to an Austin honky tonk and hear real country music.
that's awesome. Did you
So
take
we
them?
did. We went and saw Alvin Crow. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah,
I mean, it's just great to just to be able to like meet everybody. It just it's such a small world. I like when in a million years I would say I'd be walking with you in Pittsburgh and carrying your umbrella, picking you up from the floor, right,
pick
right,
me up
and
from the street. Yeah,
you're like,
I'll say it that way.
let's go hang out. I'm like, all right, let's go. Just random person. But that's like you said, we throw ourselves out there, and like me and Cecilia went full dive and getting to meet everybody, inviting everybody on
We
this
did.
show, and just to kind of segue into that, it's International Women's Month, and I know you work with Wicked, which is the Women in Construction, Engineering, and Design. They're
No,
having.
women in code enforcement
Oh yeah, yeah. My
and
bad, my bad. Wrong
development.
Wicked.
John
Code
Troll,
enforcement.
we said in Nashville at a meeting and came up with that acronym. I'm the one that started rounding up women and saying we need a chapter. We need something that we can do. I can get code training anywhere. I can get training in how to be on a road for 2 weeks in a room for 1,000 men and still leave a husband at home who doesn't understand. I don't know how to deal with. We get sexual harassment training in how not to sexual harass. there's not much training out there on what to do if you are harassed and how to deal with it. That was we want training. We want mentors we can call. We want there were not very many women. My first hearing, there were 3 women in the room. 3. And one was Vicki Lovell, who just retired, and she was working for Dow Chemical then, and the other one was a lady named Carol McLemore, who was a building official in Lamar, Texas. And then there was a Betts in Southern Building that was kind of active too. And so um, there weren't any. And so we wanted that network started. So we started Women in Code Enforcement Development. It was the first national ICC chapter. And I'm proud to say I had the privilege of serving for the 4 years as their president. And they flounder. It's hard to do a national chapter, especially when it's women who are so involved in the code development portion, which takes a lot of work. I admire them writing them and having to keep clients afloat and different meetings that they have to go to outside of ICC to stay current in their industry. The Windows Association, the door, in the installation with DuPont, Dow. And then that spawned the permit tech, which really has exploded. But now we have a lot of women. Ann Von Weller was the second president of ICC. It was an appointed because the first 3, were appointments. Cindy was our first elected female president. Yes, number 1. We have had several women on the board. Tina Rakes from Kansas has been on the board. Brahma Thomas from Arizona. We've had now Angie's on there. Brenda Thompson from Nevada. Dottie Manziel from New York. So we've had several very strong women who have served on the board over the years. And there's more coming up through our emerging leadership. We have 3 or 4 that are very strong. This is the first time we've had 3 women on the board. And so exciting times. Hopefully next year may be the first time we have 2 females on the executive committee.
Wow.
Cindy will still be on there. So we'll see. Dave Spencer, by the way, is running against me. He has announced, so you're going to probably hear from David too. But it's exciting times to see the department I'm in right now at the city of Bastrop, we're a town of 9,750 people. So our director of planning is female. She's been here for 5 years. She just got promoted from assistant director to director about 3 or 4 months ago. The building official, female. My permit tech, female. Our senior planner and the planning tech and the administrative assistant to the planner, all female. My code enforcement officer, female. Our city engineer, head of the engineering department, female. The whole department, and we're very diverse. Also, we have all colors. So we have Brazil represented. Rakita's from New Orleans. Deborah is Hispanic. So yeah, we have all colors and all female, and it's I sometimes pity our Trey Job, our assistant city manager. Yeah, because sometimes yeah.
No, and coming up in 2 weeks, it's the Women Leaders in Code Enforcement Symposium in Santa Rosa. That's something that was brought on for the code enforcement profession, but it has since expanded to accessibility, to permit technicians, to building officials, and it continues to grow and evolve. We're getting more folks like Four Leaf involved. We have other consultants, other we have our Curry group, which is officer safety for women. I mean, there's so many things that, like you said, there wasn't any training. There's training on sexual harassment, but what to do if you get harassed. And one of the things that I see with the women leaders in code enforcement movement is that women are empowering other women to say, "Hey, if we can do it. Not if you did it, I can do it. It's like we can do it," which
We
is
can do it.
something. extraordinary that is happening. I know every month they have a coffee with my girlfriends, which is an offset of women leaders in code enforcement, where they bring in speakers and they talk. It's hosted by Rachel Patterson and
Hmm.
Cecilia. And every and I sit there. I'm their honorary girlfriend because I'm the IT guy, but
Okay,
and it
so one
yeah.
thing I want to tell you on the all the different things that you said, um, that triggered in my mind. I want to be sure I get it in before we get this time off. Is we've talked a little bit about our emerging leadership and how we have a lot of strong women on that. But there's a thing that, and this year I could not go, but Houston Women in Construction have a thing called She Builds Houston. They brought in 1,000 junior high and high school girls to an auditorium. They bust them in two different sessions, half in the morning, half in the afternoon. They had every type of construction equipment you could imagine. Hilty took the slate out of a chalkboard and put sheetrock in it and taught them how to do glue guns. They had tile manufacturers there that had let them do mosaics to teach them how to set tile. They could climb all over the tractors. They had women who run their own construction companies, who work for the city, who do all this, come in and do these motivational speeches, and then they let them loose on all female plumbing companies, owned company. All of this stuff. City of Houston has always had a booth there for their plan review and inspection team. Um, it wasn't last year because of COVID, but the year before that, I was there with the City of Houston. I couldn't go this year because of the Capitol thing, but there was a little girl in a wheelchair sitting in the middle of this auditorium, just looking around with her assistant. I don't know if it's her mom or her school assistant. And I walked up and I said, "You don't see where you fit in here, do you?" And she said, "No." And I said, "So you're kind of sad, aren't you?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you know that there's a job that you can do here?" She's like looking around. I said, "That you can probably do better than anybody else." And she said, "What?" And I said, "Come with me." And I went over and I rolled to a set of plans. I said, "See, you're already sitting down. You like to look at pictures? Here's a set of plans. You can sit right here and do plan review. And I want you to know none of these people can do their job until these are right." So there is a job in construction for you as a Black handicapped female, and we can help you get there. There is a job in this industry for everybody, no matter your color, no matter your physical abilities, and no matter your race or your sexuality. No matter, there's a job for all of us in this industry. And we have to find those people and say, "Here, look, let me help you get here." And
With that point, yeah,
that's
yeah.
the whole point of what I do. That's
And
the whole.
with that point, some folks that sit on these accessibility boards are disabled because they understand the needs of for
Exactly.
accessibility. And
Exactly.
I have a disabled, sibling, and it's hard, lugging him. Or he's stubborn. He doesn't want a wheelchair, so so I take an hour to get from here to there. But that's okay. I love my brother, But
Yes.
I understand his needs, the ramps and handrails. It's important
Yeah.
and it matters. And some folks,
Matters.
see a handrail, they're like, it's just a handrail, but it matters to somebody. Door pressure, those kind of things. And that's something that Lorena Souls, she's teaching the women leaders in code enforcement, teaching accessibility 101. This is something that we need to bring into the forefront to say, hey, there's opportunities for you to learn this, whether it be fire stops or construction or electricity, whatever.
And well, and one of my biggest things, you've already heard me talk about mentorship, and you've already heard me talk about the next generation. We are going to lose 80% of our people in the next 12 years. We aren't bringing in 80% replacements. We have to, I know we have a program and we've rolled out a new thing, but I don't think we are still doing enough to find our replacements when we all get ready to retire. And we're going to have people doing what we do who have no concept, or they want to and they're going to do their best, but are they going to be fully prepared if we don't start getting them in here? And I don't mean at the college level, the high school level. I mean, we got to get them even younger so that they are ready. I was talking to a 16-year-old kid Sunday night at my son's gig. He was playing, And about five of his friends who are in construction just found out what White's mother does. And they were all like, and this kid's 16. I said, you go get you some experience and I'll help you get into this business.
Right?
You
Yeah.
work eight. And I told them all, y'all get all the money that you think you need for right now. But when you start thinking, when you have kids and they're in ball and they're doing this and they're doing that, and you need to be there for band and for football games, then's when you retire and you come to work for the city where you work 8 to 5 and have weekends off.
Sure. And one of the things is I assisted with the technical trade program and creating some media for ICC, and because it's important for folks to start learning, and so Rachel Patterson says yes at the elementary school level and middle school level. It's so important. She has a little character called Fiona the Fox, and she talks about different code issues. But just like the police, they have McGruff, and the firemen have Smokey the Bear. For us, we read. There it goes.
I'm reading this during Building Safety Month at the library.
That's
Look
awesome.
at that building. Yes.
Well, what's it about?
So it's about a group that wants to build their dog a doghouse, and they have to figure out how. So they go looking at foundations and at shapes and at columns and at all of that. And in the end, you build a doghouse out of construction paper and marshmallows and craft sticks. And so we're creating a permit that when they come to the library, they'll get their building kit. After I read the book, they'll get their building kit. When they come in, they get their permit. When they get ready to build, they give us the permit. They get their little kit. And when it gets all finished, they don't have to finish it there. If they will come by my office, we're going to make them their own little CO for their building kit and take their picture of their kit with the building official and the permit tag.
That's awesome. And
We're doing that for Building Safety Month here.
we need to sprinkle that we need to sprinkle that into our elementary school kids. You know what? Because
These are 4 to 7
right,
year old.
one of the things, what is it when you simplify your position? What's a CBO to a 4-year-old? I make sure that you live in a safe place. That's my job. That's when it comes down nuts and bolts. That's what we're here for. And you sprinkle that
Mm-hmm.
at an early age. You reinforce it in middle school. You incentivize it in high
Right.
school, and you make it a career in junior college. I think you're setting people up for success and making the next generation of that built environment. So
I tell them your building catches on fire and the fireman's going to come. But I make sure the building stands long enough for the fireman to get there.
that's beautiful. And with that, we are over our time, and I really appreciate your
I have
time.
so enjoyed it.
So I told you
That's
it was
always
going
great.
to go fast. So
Always great. I love talking about what we do. As you can tell, I'm a little bit passionate about it. So I don't know. Is there any way I can get these comments?
yeah, let me see. I don't know if we can get the
Let me
comments, but
see. Oh,
let
out
me.
here.
So we had Lorena first said she agreed
I
with.
see. Oh, out here I can see if I put on my glasses. See, I can now read.
Cool.
Thank y'all for all of the kind words. I appreciate it. I look forward to meeting y'all and
That's awesome.
talking some more. If you find me at any meeting, just come over, say hello, and visit. And one of the my closing thought, one of the board shadows come up and said, "Oh, I was so jealous you were taking your shadow to meet this person, this person, this person, and I didn't have the opportunity." I said, if I'm ever talking to someone and you want to meet them or you want to come over and just stand there, I will introduce you. I'll introduce them. If we're talking about something that's private that you can't be in on, I'll say I'll come join you over there when we're done. But I'm never wherever I am, unless I'm up on the dais or up there, at the front. Then otherwise, come and talk. I'm always open to conversation. Don't be shy. I'm not. So
Awesome. And
that
thank you
can
for
I say
joining us,
thank you?
Shirley. It's been a
Thank you.
pleasure. And everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you sticking it with us, and we will see you. And everybody, happy International Women's Month. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.